One chat led to another in Europe. A small group of Gippslanders traveling the world, in Italy at the time, eventually came across a cave of stolen loot badly hidden in garbage. One chat led to another again, which led to the discovery of a certain handmade couple hybrid, burnt with flames and blood-colored tree sap, or similar, that was actually considered religiously sacred because of its role in helping the wounded in a natural disaster, not the fictional story material. Those past Gippslanders eventually found it in the garbage pile in the cave, after looking for it. Their reasons for looking based on what they heard was the true disaster, used for the healing and helping the sick and wounded reasons, along with the probability it was handmade by the figure herself. They decided it was too important to let ride, along with some other items, and made the informed choice to hand them in at the Vatican as found stolen goods. Literally, around 1569. The actual Holy Grail was wrapped in a sealed wrap, and a little note explaining what it was and where it was found, and why, was left inside it. It is safely in the Vatican City collection now, which is not part of Italy anymore, obviously. What Italian Vatican police did with the item after it was handed in has nothing to do with Gippslanders of the time, and was not the people who found the item's decision in any way. If you think it should be somewhere else, go talk to Italian police about it. Everything there has a Vatican police in 1569 theme, from corruption to sports teams' names, etc. Really embarrassingly obviously. Those staff at the inside the Vatican grounds police station, around 14 people, didn't do anything with it after it was handed in. They were told what it was, but said yeah, sure, whatever. They added it to a bag of stuff that was to be sent further into the Vatican the following day to be sorted out as gifts, donations, or presents for the Vatican and the Pope. With the rest. The following day they moved it to an internal area of the Vatican for volunteers and staff to sort, as usual. They didn't unwrap it or anything for a look, and therefore didn't see it, touch it, or read the explanation notes. There was also one bizarre romance between a Vatican police station staff member and one of the Gippslanders afterwards, too. Vatican employees who were donation sorters, being watched from a distance by volunteers from Scotland helping out that day, read the attached note and partially unwrap the item. Then hurried away with it further into the Vatican. Weird people developed a strange intellectual difficulty with fact that Italian Vatican police and the Scottish volunteers never unwrapped it, read the note, or touched it afterwards. Go forward hundreds of years and the same dodgy type's descendants were still trying to send people looking for the fictitious version to keep them away from the cave with the loot in it, so they could laugh at them later in a lot of cases if they claimed to be looking for it based on a fictitious story and rumors. And belligerently peddling the story to stop people realizing or discovering it had been damaged with blood-colored tree sap and flames by the organized crime cult's ancestors to make it look like it had caught Jesus' blood. The lunatic laughter when someone heard the fictitious story and went looking for it was in part lunatic expression of relief that they wouldn't find it in Italy and discover it had been damaged, and the fictitious story. Like a tale about a person pretending to be Saint Joseph and rumor theory. Because the dodgy types knew what cave it was in all along for hundreds of years. They had no idea it had been found and handed into the Vatican for nearly 300 years after it was found. They suddenly became aware it had apparently been found hundreds of years beforehand by a group of foreigners who took it to the Vatican in Rome around 280 years or so earlier. They were suitably pale and horrified for obvious reasons, the main one being the damage their ancestors and associates had done to it, trying to make it look stained by blood to match the content of the fictitious story. The fact that the decision made by those Gippslanders who found it was actually very sensible and well thought out in the circumstances was lost on them. They didn't keep it for themselves as a souvenir or anything, those Gippslanders. They then had a period of nervous apprehension, wondering if they were in serious trouble because the police stationed in the Vatican would not have missed seeing the damage upon inspection, which police never bothered with looking at. And what if the people who handed it in from Gippsland, who touched it when the police staff didn't, knew the details of how it got damaged and explained it to them? Before the staff sorters unwrapped it and touched it themselves and saw the damage too. The organized crime cult that had known it was in that cave all along came to the incorrect conclusion that they had not been informed of it being found, so people could laugh at them in secret whenever they tried to talk someone into going looking for it. As if that was bizarre retaliation revenge for them laughing at anyone who went looking for it for centuries beforehand. They had known where it was all along, and panic had set in, particularly because it was badly damaged by being burnt to look like it had contained Jesus' blood. They thought maybe everyone else has known it was found for 250 years and it's been like the Truman Show and we didn't know. When the lunatics were explained where the people who found it and handed it into the Vatican were from, Gippsland, they traveled to Gippsland. They eventually made the decision to collect up volunteer cohorts, gather, and destroy every town and city in Gippsland in a pre-planned arson terrorism riot. Arson being vaguely tied in with the motives because the fire damage done to the object itself was revealed to the Vatican. I could add here again that the object itself was unfinished when used to help those sick and injured mentioned already, and it looks completely rough on the outside, almost still a tree log. Over 20,000 visiting tourists ran riot at the worst possible time, late in summer, in 1858, coordinated by crazy folks from Österreich, now Austria. They ran around lighting too many fires to deal with in a mainly wooden city, right at the end of an extreme dry period where everything was at its driest and a lot drier than usual due to a long hot spell over years. The arson riot happened in late January to February 1858. When they had finished, 1.5 million people were homeless and there was one residential building left standing. It had to be demolished. Only things like seed banks survived. The arson riot was led by crazy Austrians involved in the Austria, Italy, Switzerland, and nearby bits European Alps triad of organized crime evil. The leaders of the Arson riot were from Österreich in Europe. But my royal Habsburg ancestors were not involved at all. Those lunatics are now pretending that Latrobe Valley and Gippsland, the area where the city of Yarragon used to be, is not allowed to be developed into a city again for as many years as the time between the object being found and handed into the Vatican and the people who used to try to send people looking for it being informed it had been found already. True to lunatic form on their part. The Arson riot happened in 1858. The lunatics' descendants try to enforce themselves pretending Yarragon area is not allowed to be developed into a city like CBD and suburbs until 2147. As if they imposed it as a penalty on Gippslanders who did nothing wrong. Gippslanders were the victims of the lunatics. Some of the lunatics' descendants now claim Gippsland is religious ruins as well. All sorts of freaks and weirdos are in Gippsland with the rest at any given time. There always seems to be total strangers wandering the streets every day, too. There are also some symbols and groups who claim to be dedicated to protecting Gippsland, particularly the old city of Yarragon area, as they no longer have to be Grail protectors. They often get mistaken for other types with other themes. Given the 1858 and 2147 numbers, I can make an educated guess it was found, identified, and taken to the Vatican around 1569. X equals 2147 minus 1858. Year found equals 1858 minus X. The freaks who pretend there is not allowed to be a recognizable city in Gippsland's Latrobe Valley, the old city of Yarragon area, openly say not until 2147. There have been a few Gippslanders become pope over the centuries. It was a bunch of lunatics from Austria, Österreich, that coordinated the destruction of one of the world's largest cities, Yarragon, and all other population centers above a certain size in Gippsland in a horrific arson riot in January and February 1858, which there are photographs of. It is why Austria, 1913 approximately, copied from this country's name after this country became known as Australia officially, 1900-1. It was a stalker thing. Organized crime they lobbied to copy from Australia's name, the motives unknown to most, with 2 letters removed to abbreviate it. Then stated amongst themselves it was an open expression of want to psychologically abuse and stalk Australians in reference to Gippsland from their organized crime point of view on the Holy Grail. My ancestors from the Habsburg dynasty, I am Emperor Franz Joseph I's great-great-grandson, Austria's constitutional monarchy at the time, were not involved in the crimes against Gippsland. I have no time in my life for people who prefer reminders of perpetrators of crime and evil. Including crazy Austrians and Hungarians who almost scream that my Hohenzollern royal family has been part Gippslander from at least the 1790s, and maybe the Hohenzollerns knew all along as well. As if that drives them mental instead of their own intellectual excrement. My Habsburg ancestors were part Gippslander before my Hohenzollern ones. Well, surprise, surprise. As an extension example, Emperor Franz Joseph I's only legitimate child was my great-grandfather Prince Sebastian Habsburg. He inherited the entire Habsburg royal family estate after World War I from his father and his father's grandnephew Charles. All his eligible royal children, including my grandfather Duke and Lord James Webb the Habsburg, emigrated to Australia with their mother Ada Snowden Cooper and her partner John Webb. They became Australian citizens after changing their surname to Webb, before Österreich changed its name to Austria. When the final Prince Sebastian Habsburg died in 1960, the authorities in Austria and Hungary refused to distribute his estate to his eligible children. They provided the insipid excuse when questioned that it was because of Austria's name, combined with the fact that all Prince Sebastian's eligible royal children became Australians prior to the name change to Austria. Austria and Hungary have been illegally withholding Habsburg royal family property and artifacts in Europe from my Webb family since 1960. See the chapter, The Mean Nasty Australia Policy, for more detail. They claim they prefer descendants of the thieves who stole and damaged the Holy Grail and dumped it in a cave in Italy after making up the court blood story, and their associates, loitering around the vacant Habsburg royal family properties chanting, "This one could be one of the ones you really own, Mr. Webb," at me. With the occasional, "But you're Australian."